When everything stops inside. Have you ever felt trapped inside your own mind? Wanting to move forward, make decisions, change something, but simply unable to? The world outside keeps spinning, people continue on their paths, yet you feel as if you're on pause. Like something inside you is frozen. This invisible block is very real, and quietly affecting millions every day. Maybe you're feeling it right now. Maybe you woke up with a heavy chest, a confused mind, and a tiredness you can't explain. The good news? This block isn't the end. It can be the start of a breakthrough, if you learn to listen to what it's telling you. Imagine your mind as a computer overloaded with open windows. It starts to freeze. Basic functions stop working. Nothing responds. The system crashes. What do? You restart. You take a break. You let the system reset itself. Then, it comes back, fresh, light, ready to work again. Now, think, how many windows are open in your mind? How many worries, pressures, expectations are running in the background while you try to get through your day? Being stuck doesn't mean you're weak or broken. Often, it's a sign you're pushing too hard with too little space to breathe. Your mind is asking for a break, calling out for your attention. But most of us never learned how to honor that. Instead, we've been taught to see stopping as weakness, silence as wasted time, and feeling as dangerous. So, we push on, even when our inner engine signals the need to rest. That's when frustration, anxiety, and stagnation creep in. Here's the key: there is a way out, and it begins by changing how you see the block. Instead of fighting it, treat it as a smart signal from within. A call to reorganize. An invitation to listen to yourself. When everything stops inside, it's a clear message: it's time to look inward. Simple as that. How often have you searched for answers outside, in courses, advice, videos, books, hoping for a magic key to unlock everything? And how often have you ignored your own intuition, your inner voice that whispers when you finally get quiet? You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You're stuck because noise is drowning out your answer. And sometimes, the only way to hear it is to quiet the noise. The mind is like a river. Block the flow, and the water pools, loses energy, and gets confused. Clear the path, and it flows freely with purpose and clarity. Feeling stuck is like a blocked river inside you. Your ideas, energy, and motivation stop flowing. But that doesn't mean you're dry, it means it's time to clear the obstacles, shift direction, and get moving again. And it all starts with one simple question. What is holding me back right now? You don't need an instant answer. But by asking honestly, you start unlocking the door. Because where there's awareness, there's change. Real progress doesn't come from speeding up. It begins when you understand why you stopped. And what if this pause isn't a waste of time, but life's way of inviting you to pause and reset? What if, in this uncomfortable silence, lies exactly the answer you need? Many great breakthroughs come from moments of crisis, blockage, and emptiness. Because creation needs empty space to grow. Meaning needs the pause to reorder itself. So next time you feel stuck, breathe deeply. Don't force movement, choose to stop with awareness. Look inside patiently. Because maybe, just maybe, the solution is already in your mind. You just have to listen. The power of the right question. Now that you've started looking inward, maybe something new is stirring. A different kind of restlessness. Not the one that brings anguish, but the one that drives you forward. A type of curiosity: what if the solution really is inside me? How can I access it? This is where a powerful, and often underestimated, tool comes in: the right question. Not just any question. Not those that feed doubt, fear, or self-sabotage. but questions that expand your perception, that open doors where before there were only walls. Here's the thing, our minds run on questions. All the time. Even when we're not aware of it. When you ask yourself, why does this always go wrong for me? Your mind searches for reasons to keep you stuck in that view. When you ask, how can I turn this around? It looks for new paths. It sounds too simple, but it's incredibly effective. Questions are like flashlights in the dark. They don't change the path by themselves, but they illuminate places that were once in shadow. And where there's light, there's room to move. Most people ask the same questions every day, and are surprised to get the same answers. The cycle repeats, not because of lack of intelligence, but because they're unaware of the kind of questions guiding their thoughts. Try swapping, why am I stuck, for, what is this pause trying to teach me? Change, what's wrong with me, to, what part of me is ready to be understood? You'll notice something shifts right away. The focus moves from blame to discovery. From judgment to curiosity. From fear to learning. This subtle shift changes the entire internal game. By asking smarter, kinder, more conscious questions, you activate parts of your mind linked to creativity, insight, and deep self-reflection. And that's where unlocking happens. Remember, nobody accesses new solutions by asking old questions. If you want a different life, you need to think differently. And thinking differently starts with asking differently. You can write these questions down. Say them out loud. Carry them with you throughout your day. What matters is making them part of your inner reality. Here are a few to get you started. What do I need to let go of to move forward? What part of me is asking for attention right now? What small step can I take today, even if I don't feel ready? What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? When was the last time I truly trusted myself? These questions don't require instant answers. They work like seeds. You plant them today, and with care, you'll see ideas, insights, and actions bloom. And even if the answer isn't clear at first, the simple act of asking breaks the cycle of stagnation. It creates space. And in that space, something new can emerge. It's like cleaning out a drawer full of old stuff. At first, it looks like a mess. But bit by bit, you see what was hidden there. What's trash, what still has value, what needs to be restored. The mind works the same way. It needs space to reorganize what matters. And questions are tools for clearing, clarity, and reorganization. So never underestimate the power of a well-asked question. Maybe, right now, there's an answer inside you just waiting for the right question to reveal it. And when that happens, you won't be the same. Because you won't just have found a solution. You'll have discovered a new way to relate to your challenges. And that silent transformation is the true unlocking. Not a sudden miracle, but a reunion with your own ability to think, feel, and act with awareness. You're not lost. You're in process. A process of discovery. And every conscious question is a step in that direction. Unlocking begins with movement. Now that you've started asking the right questions, something begins to change. The internal fog slowly lifts. There's not full clarity yet, but there's space. Space for something new to be born. And it's precisely at this moment that movement becomes essential. Yes, movement. Action. Even if small. It's common to wait until you feel completely ready before taking action. Waiting for the perfect motivation, the ideal mindset, the absolute certainty that everything will work out. But often, that waiting is what keeps you stuck. Because clarity rarely comes before movement. It usually comes during movement. Think of a bicycle. If you're standing still, it falls over. But if you start pedaling, even slowly, it balances. The same happens with your mind. It finds balance as you move. And here's an important detail, we're not talking about just any movement. We're talking about conscious movements. Small acts that show your brain you're in control. It's not about changing the world all at once. It's about getting out of bed and straightening your own blanket. Taking a mindful shower. Going for a walk and paying attention to your breath. Writing for 5 minutes what you feel. These small gestures, seemingly simple, are powerful. They work like codes for your internal system. Every act, no matter how small, tells your mind, I am alive. I choose to act. I am not a prisoner of paralysis. And over time, this movement becomes rhythm. And rhythm becomes direction. Have you noticed how stagnation creates a kind of emotional paralysis? When you're stuck, everything feels too big. Simple tasks become heavy. Easy decisions feel confusing. That's not because reality changed, but because your inner state lost its momentum. That's why the secret isn't to wait until you feel good to act. It's to act gently so you can gradually start feeling good. Movement creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. And confidence unlocks what once seemed impossible. Even a simple walk can help your brain process emotions. Physical movement stimulates endorphin production, improves focus, and brings a subtle feeling of control. That's why many insights come when we're moving, not when we're stuck thinking too much. And the more you act, the more you realize that the feeling of being blocked wasn't a wall, but a fog. And that you only needed to take one step, even without seeing the whole path, to discover the ground was there, steady, beneath your feet. Of course, there will be fear. That's natural. But fear isn't the enemy. It's just a sign that you're leaving your comfort zone. And growth hurts. Unlocking the mind is often uncomfortable. Because it demands letting go of old beliefs, old stories, old excuses. But it's worth it. Always worth it. You begin to realize you no longer need to wait to be saved by something external. That true movement comes from within. And even if the world around you stays the same, you've already started to change. And this inner change is the beginning of everything. Slowly, you notice you're no longer stuck like before. Because you chose to take a step. And that step wasn't perfect or grand, but it was true. And that's enough. You don't need a revolution. You need a small conscious movement, repeated with intention. And from there, something inside begins to reorganize. The power that comes from silence. As you begin to move, you notice something curious. It's not just action that unlocks you. It's also silence. The space between thoughts. The pause between one step and the next. We live in a noisy world. Noise everywhere, news, social media, opinions, demands. Our minds are constantly processing stimuli, and, without realizing it, we drift away from ourselves. Silence is uncomfortable for many. It exposes. It reveals. But it also heals. Because it is there that the deepest answers reside. Have you noticed that in the most meaningful moments of your life, there was silence? A long embrace. A sunset that made you stop. A walk without words. The look of someone who understands you without saying a thing. These moments don't bring explanations. They bring connection. And when we are connected to ourselves, the blockage begins to lose its power. Silence is not absence. It is pure presence. It is where you access your intuition. Your most authentic wisdom. It is when everything around you quiets down that your true inner voice begins to speak. But it takes courage to listen. Because it does not say what the ego wants. It says what the soul needs. That voice may ask you to rest. It may ask you to release what you've been holding on to for too long. It may tell you that it's time to forgive. Or to forgive yourself. And sometimes, it just wants to remind you that it's okay not to know. It's okay not to be in control. It's okay just to be. The mind wants answers. But the heart wants presence. And presence heals. When you start practicing silence, not as the absence of sound, but as a state of mindful attention, you realize that many things that seem confusing begin to organize themselves. You learn to observe thoughts without getting lost in them. You learn to feel emotions without drowning in them. You learn that you are not the chaos. You are the awareness that observes it. And that changes everything. The practice can be simple. 3 minutes a day in silence, breathing deeply. Closing your eyes and simply noticing. The body. The breath. What is alive inside you? Without judging. Without trying to change. Just observing. It's like cleaning a foggy mirror. Gradually, you see yourself more clearly. And you also see the path. Silence is a bridge between what you think and what you truly feel. It is there that you realize what is true for you, and what was only imposed. It is there that you free yourself from the need to be perfect, strong all the time, always productive. Because deep down, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to be at peace with your own awareness. And peace, contrary to what people say, is not outside. It is born within. It grows when you allow yourself to slow down. When you stop chasing magical solutions and start listening. Listening to what your mind screams in the silence. Listening to what your body has been trying to tell you for years. Listening to what your soul already knows, but you have ignored out of fear, haste, habit. When you honor silence, silence gives you clarity back. When you allow yourself to pause, life shows you new directions. And then, what once seemed confusing begins to make sense. You see that the blockage was not the end. It was the beginning of a call. A call to reconnect. And in that silent, sacred space, you discover. The solution was never outside. It has always been there. Inside. Waiting for you. Your mind is the key. We've arrived at the heart of this journey. You started looking inward, asked questions that opened doors, took small steps of conscious movement, and finally touched the power of silence. Now it's time to integrate it all. Yes, integrate. Because knowing is not enough. Knowing is only the first step. True transformation happens when you begin to live what you've discovered. And here is the essential truth you may have felt before, but now can recognize clearly: your mind is the key. Not the restless mind, full of judgments and noise. But the quiet mind, curious, present. The mind that observes. That chooses. That creates. Because yes, your mind creates. It projects meaning. It sets limits or expands them. It can build a maze or reveal an exit. And when you start working with it, instead of against it, life changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin acting as the protagonist of your story. You replace self-criticism with self-understanding. You replace the fear of failing with the willingness to learn. You replace doubt with movement. And perhaps most importantly, you realize you don't need to wait for the perfect moment, external permission, or a push from someone else. You already have everything you need inside. That doesn't mean it will be easy. It means it will be real. The inner journey is the most challenging, but also the most rewarding. Step by step, you will untangle the knots that held you back. You will see that you weren't stuck, you were simply waiting to find yourself. Waiting for a time to listen. To be brave. To reconnect. Now, pause and take a deep breath. You've already taken many steps today. Even if only in thought, you moved. Even if silently, something inside you has awakened. And from here, what will you do with this? That is the final question. The question that closes this cycle, and at the same time, opens another. You can return to your routine as before, ignoring this call. Or you can choose to do something different. You can choose to continue, even without all the answers. You can decide that from now on, you will listen more to yourself. You will act with more awareness. You will trust your own pace more. And that alone is freeing. The good news is, you don't need to be perfect to start. You only need to be willing. Willing to look inside. Willing to ask better questions. Willing to move with kindness. Willing to welcome silence. Willing to change your relationship with your own mind. And this willingness, when cultivated every day, transforms any block into a gateway. A gateway to a new version of you. More lucid. Lighter. More authentic. So the next time you feel stuck, remember. Maybe the blockage isn't the problem. Maybe it's the invitation. An invitation from life for you to come back to yourself. And find, right where you never looked before, the key that opens all doors, yourself.